Venezuela. In armed of the on a GDF and were two. This occurred on Tuesday at around 17 hours. The patrol departed our location and was traveling to OP using two of our marine. While you would have seen on the orientation brief or location, armed men opened fire. The patrol priority was to protect life and assets. And patrol this time departed Opima, an area called Blackwater. Fire on the patrol using automatic. 3 hours coming location upon me. One was injured on our side. Certainly, this has now become a situation which we will continue to monitor. By our act, the Defense Act, Chapter 1501, we have an obligation, soldiers, members of the Guyana Defense Force, to protect our territorial integrity and our people. This is a mission we take seriously, and we will continue to patrol that same area and to eliminate any threat to our people and any incursion to our territory. Just this afternoon, a patrol was conducted again, but no incident free, and we will continue to do so. I wish to say that these incidents would have caused some concern along our bordering community. Over the past 2 days, I had the opportunity, and this was planned before, not because of these incidents. I was, matter of fact, in location when the first attack occurred on Tuesday. But I was able to visit 4 locations: Iterenbang, Harao, Taikan, and Corino. The community and the villagers in those locations were happy, not scared, but happy that we would have visited those locations. As you would have seen the locations along the border, our locations, there are gaps. Our conduct in those gaps is to patrol by foot and boat, ensuring that we define our borders and ensure that no one is illegally coming across, especially on the border with Venezuela. Moving forward, the Guyana Defense Force will remain vigilant and will continue to patrol the Cuyuni River. If I could refer you back to what Lieutenant Colonel Macaulay would have said, the Cuyuni River originates from Venezuela and empties into the Essequibo. There's a part of the Cuyuni in which the border is formed, and that's 824 kilometers. The Cuyuni reaches the Venemu River and it forms part of the border. And then it exits out of the Cuyuni River to the Akarabisi River and head north. That particular stretch of the Cuyuni River is an important part that we patrol every single day. The community in that area is sparsely populated, mostly occupying Itirimban community, we call it, and it's just opposite San Martin, which is located on the Venezuelan side. There are a few other persons who occupy on the Guyana side, on the length of that particular part of the Cuyuni River. The location, Babu, as it's so commonly called, is isolated from any other civilian occupation. Isolated. Even the gunshots were not being heard by anyone. From Macapao, which is just about 20 kilometers away. And there's no other person living in the vicinity. It's an area that we have noted over the years where these armed men would stop civilian boats and extort monies to traverse the river. You would have seen in the orientation the description of our borders from Ponta Playa to the Tri Junction Point on Mount Roraima. In that description of the border, it will tell you that the Cuyuni River, where it shares with the border with Venezuela, the whole of the Cuyuni River belongs to Guyana. So we have jurisdiction to patrol, stop, search anyone in that river. The Guyana Police Force and our Coast Guard, they have those powers to exercise such searches. I will tell you, we have both the infantry soldiers and Coast Guard currently at the two locations. I thank you for your time, and this is the part in which I just reported the facts. And I will move to the question.
Mr. Brawl, your question.
Sir, could you say whether the Guyana Defense Force soldiers are actually checking people as they traverse the river, especially the Coast Guard section of the GDF, to more or less see whether you're carrying any illegal weapons and what might be their motives? And secondly, does the Guyana Defense Force know whether any of these Venezuelan civilians are actually in Guyana's land territory and might be sleepers, so to speak?
Thank you for that question, sir. I want to say on the outset, the living culture of border communities is one in which families would be living on one side and families on the other side. Itirimban community and the San Martin is an example, a perfect example of it. And our conduct on the river is not just to stop anyone, it's to ensure safety, etc. And no one is hampered in what they do. Secondly, I want to go on record to say that Venezuelan people are peaceful people on the border. The Guyanese people are peaceful people. They're beautiful people. And they do not, in that community, pose a threat. We have police stations, outposts, close to Macapá and at Itirimba. Whenever a crime is committed, the police addresses those incidents. We've had no reason to conduct frequent searches or stop. The current situation now warrants us to do that. And we will identify how and when we will do that.
And on the land border, on the lands on the Guyana side of the border, are you aware whether they're Venezuelan gangs or actually just staying low, lying low?
No. And if they are, we will know.
Sir, good afternoon. Sharon Bacchus from the newsroom. Sir, over time we have been having these incidents. Could you say how is the Guyana Defense Force improving its capacity and posture to respond holistically to the aggression faced by the Venezuelan authorities and its people?
If I can use the term for the first time, I know you love Guyana, and I thank you for that. There have been improvements in how we conduct ourselves in terms of posture, and I am going to say just that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chief of Staff, Travis Chase, Nightly News. Sir, bluntly, what should we be prepared for in the event that Venezuela takes it seriously, comes across to our border to hold an elections? It's one. Two, this incident happened on the 13th. Why are we hearing about it on the 15th? And were you present when the soldiers were attacked?
I was not present at the location. I was present several kilometers away.
I'm asking why are we now hearing about it on the 15th? Is there something else we need to know? What else happened that we do not know about?
There's nothing else at all. Information such as this has to be assessed and analyzed before we could make it known. This is not a situation in which happened in country. This is a border. It could lead to other implications. We want to assess the information and have it available. The press release came out last evening, and that would have been just about 5 hours after the last incident. We were, after the first incident on Tuesday, a lot of work had been done, investigating, assessing, etc. It's not a shooting incident like what you would have on a normal street in your country. This is in another territory. So we have to assess before we could comment on it. And we want to ensure that you have the accurate information. Thank you for that question.
And the first one? What should we really be prepared for? Venezuela takes it seriously, enters our territory and hold an elections.
I will tell you, as part of my visit along the border, I made an announcement that any Guyanese should participate in such an election. There will be implications for that person. This is almost like a passive coup because you're voting in a foreign government to have or seek territory. So that would be a serious offense. Any Guyanese participating in such election will be arrested and they will become imputations. Secondly, any Venezuelans living in Guyana participate in such election will be arrested and deported.
What is a measured response?
A measured response, I just told you.
Well,
That happened if they vote.
no. You said in your press release that the officers took a measured response to being attacked. What do you deem?
That term. A measured response in this particular case points to a prepared and deliberate reaction, meaning that we were anticipating that if it happened before, it could happen again, and we must be prepared. The measured response points to those two particular components: being prepared and being deliberate. Thank you for that.
I guess what I'm asking, did your ranks return fire?
I said that.
Okay, thank you.
I said that.
All right.
Did I say that?
Thank you.
Julia Johnson, Prime News.
Chief of Staff, two questions. Given your statement that your people on the ground would know things, would you say if these civilians were indeed military people but dressed as civilians to provoke a confrontation or provoke a response from Guyana, given Venezuela's posture, May 25th, 26th, and how equipped are our soldiers on the border there, that's in the Cuyuni area, given the fact that we saw the last group that came on the attack were injured in various parts of their bodies. How equipped are they to protect themselves apart from having weapons to shoot back at their aggressors? And my third question is, what advice would you give residents on the border, Guyanese residents on the border, given Venezuela's posture? Thank you.
In your first question, thank you for those three questions. I would tell you, our soldiers are always equipped whenever they conduct their patrols. The expectation of one being fired upon is always there. In the first incident, fire was returned. In the second, was returned. The third and the fourth, same. And if you note me saying that in this last three incidents, no one from our side were injured. The residents in the community, I would tell you, because of where they are, there's no major threatening activity that occur. This particular location, Babu, is in a part of the river that no one is living within 50 kilometers, I would say. So it's an isolated area that the armed men are using to conduct their activities.
Clarity on whether or not these armed men may be very well Venezuelan military.
We are still, I'm not going to speculate, but there are many things that we are looking at and assessing.
Good afternoon, Milton Bradley for Starbuck News. Can you say how many ranks were involved on Guyana's side in this issue? Also, can you say if any vessels were damaged in the shooting incident? Also, you said that you're conducting investigations. Can you say if the persons who might have opened fire might be the sindicatos? I know you stated that you investigated, but preliminary, can you say if they're a part of the sindicato gang? Also, can you say if those patrols they usually have, if they're continuing for now?
I think I mentioned that the patrol is continuing. We had one today. But thank you for your question. I do not like to tag people for a particular group. These are armed men in civilian clothing. I will not be able to say or tell you how many persons from our side was on that patrol. Thank you for that.
And on the vessels, were any vessels damaged or involved in the incident?
No.
In light of the attack, can you say if the GDF has taken any new measures to ensure that servicemen are protected?
They're always a constant of improving and enhancing for every single incident. And that is a work in progress.
Okay. Also, can you say if,
We'll give someone
one last question, just one.
We'll come back to you. Your
Good
question.
evening, Kim King with Guyanese. Sir, what can you say about the quantity of troops stationed along the border? And this month, by how much may you have ramped up or intend to ramp up the troops there in anticipation of the planned activity by Venezuela? And what sections of the border would you say may be particularly worried or are taking greater focus?
In your first question, I know you love Guyana and I thank you for that. In the second one, we share the border with Venezuela. We expect Venezuela not to violate our sovereignty, but we are prepared for any eventuality. And that's why we continue to patrol the entire border.
I can go ahead.
How many more
Anyone else
questions?
with questions before we have, anyone else?
I just have one. When you're done.
Okay, let me sit with Mr. Chabal go first and then you, Sarah, please.
Chief of Defense, sir, you mentioned about Venezuelans participating in the elections will be deported. What if the Venezuelans are living in the Guyana side, participating in elections on the Venezuelan side, and come back over? How do you deal with that?
So, I would tell you, the Guyana Defense Force is not a force of uniform alone. You are part of the Guyana Defense Force. Every citizen, and we have been receiving information from the general public along our border communities in Georgetown, across Guyana, of information that we have acted on and will continue to act. So, someone participating in such an election will eventually get to us. What I would ask you, the press, is to promote this. If you love Guyana, and I know you love Guyana, you will help me and the Guyana Defense Force to help you and to help all of us. This is a serious matter. We have the concept of awareness. The brief that we had just now is an awareness for you to see. Even the first one, our safety brief, is to tell you where the exit are. And that gives you the kind of information to turn left, right, or where to run. If I don't have the information, I don't know where to turn, where to run. And I have to say, our people are beautiful people. I have not had any opportunity to hear a Guyanese say that they don't like Guyana. And I wanted to remain that. So I'm requesting of you, the press, to promote this. Anyone, any information, anyone participating in such election, let us know. We don't want that person among us. We don't ever want that. From our independence to now, 59 years ago, we were, are, and will continue to be a beautiful and peaceful people, all of you. I have an obligation. All my officers, they have an obligation. Once you wear this uniform, we have an answer to you, to the people, and we are dedicated to that. And if I should add, this rank I wear on my shoulder is not an authority over you or the populace. This rank I wear gives me the authority to manage the people under my command and the resources, to optimize and employ it and deploy it, to serve you and protect you. And we can get better if you help me do that.
But Chief of Staff, you haven't answered the question.
Say again?
I don't think you've answered the question. I'm asking what will the GDF do if Venezuelans who are living in Guyana who across the border and vote in the elections and return back to Guyana?
Well, we will know same thing.
No, with you.
Yes. We got knowledge of it. We arrest you and deport you.
Okay.
Yes, Venezuelans. Yes. Mm-hmm. You can't vote in a country of yours and come to our country and believe everything will be okay. No. I think we are peaceful enough to understand that we know where you're coming from, because for whatever reason, and for a betterment in the end. Yes.
In light of these recent attacks, the ones yesterday and on Tuesday, and then the February 17th attack, are you at all concerned that this is an orchestrated attempt by the Venezuelan government to intimidate Guyana, to push bilateral talks? And at the same time, can you say if the RSS was notified of these ongoing issues?
Thank you for that question. There's a spectrum of opportunities and resources available to us. And partnership is one of it. Every incident that occurs that relates to our border, such as what I just described, the incident and the details of it are shared with our international partners. RSS is one such partner, regional partner. And
on the intimidation, do you think that Venezuela might be pushing intimidation, or trying to intimidate Guyana to have bilateral conversations?
I wish not to speculate on that. That is not within my realm. But that could be answered by another stakeholder.
Mr. Khan, finally, were you able to decipher the type of weapons used by the armed men? And secondly, I love Guyana very much. That's why I'm asking you for an update on the helicopter crash report.
The first question, we have a fair idea, the type of weapon. I would not say it here. It's important for me not to say it here. And we are working with what we can do to counter that. On the issue of which aircraft you're talking?
The helicopter crash, radio officers there.
The helicopter investigation, we were a stakeholder in that investigation. By the nature of Guyana's law, the Ministry of Public Works has that mandate to direct an investigative body to investigate that incident. We were just a stakeholder.
You established a board of inquiry? Yes?
Yes.
Right, so I'm asking about that.
So the board of inquiry is meant to have that report when it's completed. We did what we had to do, but there's a part in which we have to have from the official report to take into consideration to complete our board of inquiry.
What were your
all
findings?
The recommendations, all the findings of internal investigation have been acted upon.
And what were those findings?
I will make that available when the official report comes out.
I see.
kindly allow a follow-up, please, Chief of
Mr.
Staff?
Chabal, just give this young man more chance, please.
Sure.
Has no one else.
Thank you. Have any of your international military partners, perhaps the United States or Brazil, prepared to deploy assistance should there be any military confrontation?
I know you love Guyana, and I thank you for that. Yes.
Chief of Staff, could you
One more question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
A follow-up on Travis's question. Should the report find that Captain Charles, that it was an error in his part that resulted in the incident, would you still classify him as a hero?
I would wait for what the report says, and then I will not comment on that. Thank you.
Is it that you know what the report says, you don't want to tell us now?
I don't know the report. I'm not the author of the report.
You're the chief of staff. You don't know what the report
I'm a
says?
stakeholder of the investigation.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, if there are no further questions, are there any further questions? Thank you very much for availing yourself for this.